Welcome to Hamburg, the first stop on our Independence of the Seas Northern Europe cruise. In this video, I film a beautiful early morning sailing. We explore the sights of Hamburg, drink margaritas in boleros, watch the sail out down the Elbe, enjoy Caribbean night, and an awesome magic show. I set my alarm early and went up to deck 12 to film us sailing into Hamburg. It was just before dawn, and the city sights and lights looked really beautiful at this time of day. I spent my time swapping between the city sights and the more industrial and freight side, as we cruised in towards Hafen City, where we'd be docking today. Eventually, after some epic scenic city cruising, we arrived at Hafen City. And as I was really cold now, on what was a very fresh October morning, I took an elevator back down to our stateroom, where our room service breakfast was due to be delivered. Room service continental breakfast is included in your fare. And we'd ordered toast, pastries and donuts, as well as tea and coffee. And everything was delivered fresh and tasty. After breakfast, we dressed up warm, got our things together, and went up on deck for a look at the city in daylight. Looking around at where we were docked. You have the cruise terminal, then an industrial recycling area right beside the port. But this didn't affect the ship's gangways, which led directly onto the quayside. We moved along for a closer look at the cruise terminal, which only opened in 2025. Then went for a look around the top decks before getting off the ship. The hot tubs and pools were steaming nicely in the cold morning air. And it seems every time we take a walk on this ship, we find something new. Today, it was this line of table tennis tables, stretching right along one side of the deck. At the back of the ship, we took a closer look at the Flowrider surf simulator. This looks a lot of fun, and I'd love to give it a go on a warmer cruise. Around the other side of the ship, we walked past Johnny Rockets, Royal Caribbean's upcharge burger restaurant. It's a good size with plenty of indoor and outdoor seating. We didn't eat here. We enjoy a burger as much as anyone, but we don't really see them as specialty dining, and a $15.99 cover charge seems a bit steep to us. Then we arrived back at the main pool deck, where we took a last look around before heading ashore. The gangway was set up on the prom deck, and we scanned our cruise cards, then headed down the ramp to the dock side, where we had a close look at the ship. Before heading into the cruise terminal. This is all nice and new. And leads directly into a brand new Westfield shopping centre. Which has a very impressive ceiling. And a lot of shops and eateries. We popped out through one of the side doors for a look at our ship and to take some pictures. Then back through the Westfield Centre and out into Hafen City. Which is a really impressive city regeneration area. with some really interesting new buildings. Our plan today was to walk into the old town, have a look at the architecture, and hopefully find somewhere to have a drink. On our way, we passed over a couple of canal bridges. Stopped for a selfie. Then kept on walking towards the church spires, admiring the sights on the way. And after not too long, we arrived at the old St. Nicholas Church. This was largely destroyed during World War II bombing, and is now a memorial. With a lot of sculptures, information boards and artworks dotted around inside. You can take a lift up in the tower, but we didn't today, preferring to film it from the ground. From there, we took a short walk to the City Hall, which is a really impressive building. After admiring that, we walked over to a nearby lake with a really impressive fountain. And we took a look around at this beautiful part of the city. Then, as we couldn't find a bar anywhere close that was open during the day, we sat down at a little cafe and ordered a coffee and a tea. We enjoyed these in the rather cold sunshine, then took a slow walk back through the city. Retracing our steps and filming the buildings as we went. Back at Hafen City, we took a walk along the waterfront. Then back through the cruise centre, where we queued for security checks. Before heading back on board the ship. We went up to the Windjammer buffet for lunch. There was a really good selection to choose from. I started out with curry and rice, with a view over this part of the city. And Sue's had a mix of salad, meats and cheese. We ordered a couple of cold lagers from a passing waiter. And then Sue's had a couple of tiny cakes for dessert. I didn't fancy sweet food, but found the local food section and had a mix of German cuisine. After a really tasty lunch, we went through to the Sanctuary bar and ordered a couple of cocktails. And we got a couple of lounges by the pool, where we sat down to enjoy these, in what was now a really beautiful autumn day. As we hadn't found a bar on land, we decided to have a bit of a pub crawl on board, starting out with a couple in the Island Anchor, then moving along to Boleros. Where we decided on a couple of very tasty margaritas. Which were so good that we had a couple more. Then we called by Cafe Promenade for some coffee to go, which we took back to our room. And looking out the window, we appeared to have sunk a bit since this morning. The Elbe, even this far upstream, is tidal. Then it was sail away time. And we went up on deck to watch the ship turning around in the river. And we began our long journey back towards the sea. The sail out was really nice, with lots of people waving to us from the decks of passing boats and buildings that we passed by. And we got to see some really interesting sights as we slowly cruised downstream. When we were almost out of the city, we spotted a runway across the river. Which turned out to be the Airbus assembly plant. And we could see a few interesting looking aircraft as we passed by. And also partly assembled planes inside and outside the buildings. Then we were past the city limits and carried on down towards the sea. And a little later, we passed by the remains of two well-known shipwrecks, one from 1976 and one from 1922. The sites along the banks were getting a little sparse now, and we were also getting hungry. So we went downstairs and changed, for Caribbean night, and went to Playmakers for a pre-dinner drink. And then up to the buffet for dinner, with high hopes for some decent Caribbean food. And indeed, there was a nice selection. I started off with some jerk chicken, curried goat, rice and beans and greens, which tasted great. Suze went American with a hot dog, mac and cheese and a chicken tender. I went American for my next plateful with a Jamaican chicken pasty on the side. And this was all really fresh and tasty. And Suze had the sweet option. After a really pleasant dinner, we went out on deck, where we were still travelling down the Elbe. And after a look at both banks, we went down to a really busy schooner bar. We had a look through the menu. Then I went up and ordered a rum old-fashioned and a desert pear margarita. These were quite nice, and we followed them with a toasted marshmallow old-fashioned and a berry seltzer. I enjoyed both variants of an old-fashioned, but I definitely prefer the original. We went down to the Royal Theatre to see tonight's show. This was Ben Hart, a comedy magician, who was introduced by Cruisin' Susan, our cruise director.
You guys have a beautiful day.
The show was great, and Ben Hart was funny and very talented.
This little bag is totally empty. And now I imagine it changing form and changing shape. I just think, I visualize. I imagine it growing and evolving. I think about what I want it to become, and tonight I want that piece of paper to become an egg. So I just think egg. It becomes an egg. And at this point you'll notice all of those funny markings on the side of the deck. They actually start to make some kind of sense. They start to form a word.
And we had a great time watching his seemingly impossible illusions.
And the word is unshuffled. I won't even use the table. We'll just cross my hands over. They won't touch. When I go like this, those two go from there over to there.
Which were helped by a fair few volunteers from the audience. And after an awesome show, we popped our heads out on prom deck for a look at the night sky. Then we headed to bed. Thanks for watching.